Shana Tova once again. This past Shabbat, we commemorated the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So much pain and sadness, so much loss. Even 2 decades later, it still seems so unfathomable. But alas, it is real. The hate that drove such events has not abated. Some suggest it has exacerbated over the years, not lessened. Among the striking takeaways for our Jewish community is that anti-Semitism itself is still alive and well. Just hours after the attacks on 9/11, the conspiracy theorists reared their ugly heads, blaming terrorism on that day on the Jews and on the Israelis. Too dumb to repeat here, but suffice to say, there were many in the world, millions, who believed such accounts and flamed the fires of anti-Semitism. Do you know that in the last 5 years, there's not 1 week, I kid you, not 1 week that goes by without me receiving a phone call from a parent whose child has experienced some form of anti-Semitism. From rolling pennies down the school hallway, to classmates arguing the efficacy of Hitler's claims, to athletes being asked to take off their Stars of David when no other players were asked to take off their necklaces. I'm really shaken by the overwhelming nature of these accounts. They are constant, and it's 2021. 2 weeks ago, my boys Jacob and Zachary were at a Japanese restaurant in Los Angeles. Just as they were getting their check, a man walked in and sat at the table next to them. The man turns to them and asks, "Are you guys Jewish?" Zachary, thinking to himself, if he isn't going to wish us a Shana Tova, then we might be in a bit of trouble here. So Zach responded, "Are you Jewish?" "No," said the man. Zach inquired, "Why do you ask if we are Jewish?" After a long pause, as if considering whether he should say it or not, the man decided to say it. "If you are Jewish, will you tell your friends to stop stealing my money?" What's a person supposed to do in this situation? What's the right response? How is a person supposed to feel about the world when such things take place? A few years ago, I asked my confirmation class, 10th graders, how many people had experienced some form of anti-Semitism. 100% of the students said yes. It's real, very real. What do we do? How do we respond? Those are the questions for this Yom Kippur. I've developed a mnemonic to help guide us on how we as individuals and individual families can deal with the reality known as anti-Semitism. Instead of talking about the global issues, I want to talk about us and how we can deal with it. The mnemonic is JEW. We must join, engage, and wisely use our words, welcome those willing to dialogue, and win when there are no other options. 19 years ago, Daniel Pearl, the Wall Street journalist, was murdered. And I think about his last words all the time. Just seconds before his brutal death, he proclaimed, "My father is Jewish, my mother is Jewish, I am Jewish." Our last words ought to be the same, but so may we say these words every day in pride and with vigor. And let me add a few more phrases the members of our temple might say every day. Even though my parents aren't Jewish, I am Jewish. Even though I might not be Jewish myself, I attach myself to the Jewish people through my family. All these statements we should wear proudly, not only in death, but in life as well. How? JEW. Join, engage, wisely use our words will guide us as we fight anti-Semitism. So let's first define anti-Semitism. The State Department uses this definition, which I don't really understand. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews, Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Thank you, State Department. The ADL, I think, does much better. The belief or behavior hostile to Jews just because they are Jewish. It may take the form of religious teachings that proclaim the inferiority of Jews, for instance, or political efforts to isolate, oppress, or otherwise injure them. It may also include prejudice or stereotyped views about Jews. In some ways, my definition is much more simple. It's simply this: we know it when we see it. If it feels wrong, if it hurts, if there's pain, and we are triggered by the comments or actions, it is usually anti-Semitism. Barry Weiss, author on Jewish issues, speaks of anti-Semitism this way: anti-Semitism is an ever-morphing conspiracy theory in which Jews play the starring role in spreading evil in the world. In the eyes of the anti-Semite, the Jew is whatever the anti-Semite needs him to be, the symbol of whatever a given civilization defines as its most sinister and threatening qualities. Not much has changed over the centuries. Professor Deborah E. Lipstadt, foremost expert on anti-Semitism and who is now the special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, wrote the following on how we should spell the words anti-Semitism, for the spelling is instructive. She rejects using a hyphen in between anti and Semitism because it implies that whatever lies to the right of the hyphen exists as an independent entity. Yet she argues that neither Semitism nor a Semitic people exists, and that the conventional spelling obscures the fact that anti-Semitism refers only to Jew hatred, plain and simple. She also advocates that none of the words should be capitalized. She writes that Jew hatred doesn't deserve the dignity of capitalization. Anti-Semitism is only about the hatred of the Jewish people, and it is alive and well in America and everywhere else. So what should we do? We begin by joining. The Jewish community should not be ashamed or cower because of our ability to organize and get just outcomes. AIPAC, for example, their ability to educate U.S. politicians on the importance of the Israeli-American relationship is an excellent example of how many voices coming together as one can have a profound effect on policy and on outcome. Stand With Us fights Jewish hate on campus and elsewhere, and their educational materials are outstanding. There are so many Jewish organizations fighting the good fight. Join them and let your voice be heard and amplified by there being power in numbers. What can we as a single Jewish person or family do? We can join groups that fight for that which we believe and have a positive impact on the world. In addition to joining, it's important to report every single incident that you know about or that has happened to you. For every hate crime or incident, we believe there are at least 10 that go underreported, or unreported rather. And I believe it is much, much more than that. Numbers you see result in funding for programs that will address these issues. The underreporting on hate has resulted in the underfunding of such programs that would bring healing. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Orange County Human Relations Commission have excellent reporting web pages that you can even report anonymously. But even before we join these advocacy groups, we must address the groups we are already in. If you are in a particular group that has expressed things that seem not right to you on Jewish issues, speak up. Whether it is a school group, a sports league, a social club, a business fraternity, I don't care what the coach thinks or doesn't think. I don't care what the principal thinks or doesn't think. We will go to the right source to get the just result, but we must speak up. Whatever the organization, speak up. Sometimes we spend so much time yelling at the other side, seeing only anti-Semitism over there, we're blind to it in our own spaces. Both the far political left and the far political right have their share of anti-Semitism. From anti-Israel bashing, which calls into question the legitimacy of Israel's mere existence as a Jewish state, is often, if not always, just veiled anti-Semitism, to white supremacy on the right, at whose core is anti-Semitism, more than anything else that guides them. These movements are alive and well. Let's check the group we have joined first to make sure anti-Semitism does not exist in the places we inhabit. The effect could be more powerful and exponentially more impactful if it comes from within the group rather than from outside the group. Join groups that share your views to expand your voice to fight anti-Semitism, and be sure that the groups you have already joined are fighting the good fight as well. This brings us to the letter E, engage. Fighting anti-Semitism, I fear, will be a never-ending pursuit the Jewish community will always have to endure, and sadly, a necessary one. But it can't be the only pursuit. It can't be what defines us as Jews. We must, like Rabbi DePaulo's early story at the beginning of the service, like Brandeis, choose Judaism every day. When I was growing up, being Jewish was based on two ideas: fighting anti-Semitism and support of Israel. That was the crux of my 1970s growing up Judaism. Noble both are, they don't sustain us. We have to know, appreciate, and love our faith in order to defend it. We should know the Kiddush. We should know the 5 books of the Torah. We should know the basics of Jewish history. How do we know if Judaism is worth defending or not if we don't know the basics of it? Engagement is a huge piece of fighting anti-Semitism, for it engirds the Jew and the Jewish family with strength and resilience. I repeat these words that I say so often of Echad Ha'am, the great Jewish culturist, who said, "More than the Jews have kept the Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews." Let not our ignorance about our faith be the death of our faith, even as we defend against anti-Semitism. Engage. Professor Ze'ev Magen of Bar-Ilan University wrote, "Ask yourself why we Jews are still here. Surely none of you will tell me that down 4 millennia, and through the wrenching vicissitudes and savage deprivations of exile, it was our appeals, our protests, and our screams for equitable treatment that sustained us, kept us alive, and brought us to this season? No. No, my friends, our history teaches us a different lesson. That those who, rather than appealing and screaming, choose to build, to educate towards cultural and national revival, to defy anti-Semitism, not with Jewish pleas and Jewish hand-wringing, but with Jewish learning, Jewish observance, Jewish strength, and Jewish achievement. Such are those who bring our people survival, salvation, a future. Engage in your faith, and your faith will be strong in spite of those who would do us wrong. I say this not to be self-serving, but because we all have invested in our home here at SHM. Come, take full advantage of what we do and who we are. Try making Friday night services a regular part of your life, and you will be lifted up spiritually and strike the hardest blow to those who wish us evil. J, join, E, engage, and W has 3 parts. I couldn't resist. Wisely use your words, welcome, and win when all else fails. Wisely use your words. In this day and age, the written tweet, post, sermon can go a very long way. So can letters to your elected officials and your friends and family be a motivator. Learn the issues and speak with eloquence and dignity, but speak up. Speak thoughtfully and with determination. Don't go into the gutter with the others. Stay true to our faith. Over the years, I have been attacked or criticized for my views. And what I always do is invite that person who criticized me in for a conversation. I will wisely use my words to affirm that I'm listening to them and at the same time explain my position. Honestly, this rarely works and usually changes very few minds. But I do it to be true to myself rather than stoop to a level that I find degrading. There are also times when I believe welcoming is the right answer, such as with the inadvertent or ignorant anti-Semite. You might recall a few years ago that there was a high school party in which the kids arranged red cups in the shape of a swastika, and it was posted on social media and got national attention. The next Friday night, we happened to be hosting a teen Shabbat at our home, and so I invited the students, 3 of the students, to our home for this teen Shabbat. First, I met with them right here at Temple and showed them the Torah from the Holocaust, and then took them to see the Ma'alot monument in the education building, and then to my home for Shabbos. Each student offered a heartfelt apology to our Jewish teenagers who were present, and these students from the party got to experience the beauty of Judaism. These students were not anti-Semitic, but they were caught in an anti-Semitic moment, and they should have known better. They will forever be allies to the Jewish people now because our temple welcomed them in for teshuvah, for repentance instead of condemnation. That instance, welcoming was the right answer. So welcome non-Jewish people to your homes for Shabbat, for Hanukkah, for Passover. Even those who might be on the line, push yourself and welcome them. Let's turn our adversaries into friends if it is possible. But sadly, there are those who will never learn, grow, or come to the realization that Jews and Judaism are here to stay. And so sadly, we can never let down our guard. Theodor Herzl, the modern father of Zionism, said, "Wherever the Jew goes, anti-Semitism follows him." This is why Israel was so very needed. When you are the masters of your own destiny, you can defend your destiny. Sadly, there are times when the Jewish people must also defend themselves with arms when all else fails. We are worthy of defense and should feel no shame in doing such. When all else fails, we must win. And all I mean by that is to defend our right to be who we are while allowing others to be who they are, as long as their existence isn't based on our extermination. As Jews and Jewish families, even in America, we are masters of our own destiny if we join, engage, and wisely use our words. Welcome if need be, win. My father is Jewish. My mother is Jewish. I'm Jewish, and I am proud of it. Amen.